Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. They did it again. The conservative majority in the Supreme Court has officially ended affirmative action for all colleges in the nation, and the woke left is freaking out. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court has officially and decisively ruled against race-based admissions policies of Harvard University and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, citing violations of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the 6-justice majority, stated that both programs lack clear objectives for how precisely they were using race in a meaningful or constitutional manner, employed unavoidable racial stereotyping, and did indeed exercise reverse discrimination against races that were adversely affected in their hiring decisions. Simply put, the court decided that college admissions programs cannot work in a manner that treats individuals based on their race. Now, the court did clarify that universities may still take into account an applicant's discussion of how race has affected their life, such as experiences of discrimination or inspiration. However, the court emphasized that this should be done on an individual basis and not as part of a broader race-based admissions policy. Now, just to show you how insane this race-based admissions policy got, at Harvard, apparently a black student in the 40th percentile, so literally below average in their academic index, is more likely to get in than an Asian student in the 100th percentile. Black students in the 50th percentile, so average students right smack in the middle, were more likely to get in than white students who are towards the top of their academic percentile. Now that's insane. I mean, that's bluntly insane. Or you may have seen this. A student got into Stanford University by writing a college essay that simply said Black Lives Matter 100 times. Write out some ultra-woke political slogan 100 times, and you too can treat yourself to an Ivy League education. So needless to say, obviously Americans are overwhelmingly supportive of this decision. Here's the ultra-woke over at MSNBC having to admit just that.
Making process, this flips around and you find broad opposition. So in fact, this Washington Post poll, this was conducted as the arguments for this case that we're now getting the ruling for, as the arguments were taking place. And they basically asked about what's just happened. They said, if the Supreme Court bans colleges and universities from considering race and ethnicity and admissions, would you favor or oppose it? And among all Americans, it's almost 2-to-1 favor over oppose. This is not the only poll that's shown a result like this. This is a pretty consistent result. And I think strikingly, when you break this down here by racial and ethnicity group here, you see strong support among white Americans for this ruling. Among African Americans, it's close to a split. 47% favor, 53% said they would oppose the Supreme Court doing that. Majority support among Hispanic Americans, majority support among Asian Americans.
And of course, MSNBC didn't waste any time in melting down in their utter hysterics.
The worst thing about affirmative action is that it created a Clarence Thomas who benefited from the program and now is in a position where he's going to deny many young African-American talented individuals an opportunity. Historically, the problem has been that institutions of higher learning, corporations, companies, and other entities have denied well-qualified African-Americans and other individuals access in terms of admissions, employment, because of their race.
In fact, they spewed their absurdities even before the decision came out.
We don't have the answers just yet. We're going to read in real quick. Let Julia do what she needs to do. Our Laura Jarrett's reading the opinion as well as we await the outcome in this decision. What's going through your mind right now, Catherine?
That's a big one. And it was funny. Before we started, I asked Charles what law school he went to. He went to Howard. I had a different experience. It was me, Sonia, and Bob, 3 black students in my graduating class in law school in 1988. Love my law school, but that's not a good thing. And they've now increased the black student population. And if this decision comes out a way that it shouldn't, depending on your political beliefs, then you were going to go back to a 3-person black person class in the class of 200. And that's just not a good thing.
Hey, gang, you all know that as we age, aches and pains are normal, but they don't have to be. And that's where a groundbreaking medical scientist comes in, Clint Winters. Now, you've seen Clint on Fox. You've read about him on Forbes. He's a world-renowned health expert who's unveiled a natural pain reliever that's taking the world by storm. It's called CB2, the 100% drug-free way to get full-body pain relief without dangerous meds. It's the go-to pain reliever for hundreds of professional athletes, tens of thousands of seniors, and it's even the official pain reliever for the fighters in the UFC. And the best news, CB2 has no documented side effects after years of private testing. It's absolutely the future of pain relief. So whatever you do, make sure to click on that link below and check out Clint's amazingly informative report on how CB2 is changing lives by providing safe and powerful relief at a fraction of the cost of pain pills. Click on that link below right now. So now we're going back to just 3 black students in law school. That's what the Supreme Court did. They've sent us back. We're going back to the very same social conditions that made sure that black kids had to go to the back of the college admissions line, just like in the 60s. These people have literally been saying that. They've been saying the same thing. They've been using the same old tired script for 50 years, and nobody's listening to them anymore. And here's the freaking irony in those panelists with what they just said there. They're the ones who want to turn back the clock, not the Supreme Court. These radical, woke, cultural Marxist leftists are the ones who want to turn the clock back. Even fellow liberals are recognizing this, and they're horrified by it. Bill Maher, who is himself liberal, right? He's a political leftist, but even he recently shared his concern over the increasing phenomenon of what's being called NeoSegregation, where the radical left, particularly on college campuses, has more and more been insisting on actually going back and deliberately segregating the campus along racial lines, but now, according to their own Marxist terms. In a recent study, 42% of 173 schools surveyed offered segregated residences. 46% offered racially segregated orientation programs, and 72% hosted racially segregated graduation ceremonies. And Maher noted, quote, "There are a hell of a lot of Americans trying really hard these days to create a new spirit of inclusion and self-reflection, and this progressive allergy to acknowledging societal advances is self-defeating. Having a warped view of reality leads to policies that are warped." That's a great observation. Having a warped view of reality leads to policies that are warped, such as black-only dorms and graduation ceremonies. A growing belief in whiteness is a malady and that white people are irredeemable. Giving up on a colorblind society. Only if you believe we've made no progress does any of that make sense. And the irony in all of this, Maher doesn't get into this, but as wider studies have demonstrated, all these ad nauseum accusations of racism, what Maher calls progressophobia, all of them make it easier for nationalist populists like Donald Trump to get elected. And that's precisely because the threat of being called a racist is so feared by members of the political class, by particularly mainstream centrist politicians, that they go into a kind of political paralysis. They fear being labeled a racist. And so they don't ever talk about immigration. They don't ever talk about demographic changes in rural areas. They refuse to deal with the potential strains on our social services because of wide open borders or the rising crime rates and violence. And so that fear of speaking out on real political concerns, what it does is it opens up opportunities for what scholars call bootleggers. So these are people who are technically third-party candidates who have no fear whatsoever in being labeled a racist precisely because they're third-party candidates. They're not part of the woke political class. And that's why they're winning. People like Trump are winning precisely because the political class and the mainstream media have paralyzed themselves and permanently separated themselves from being able to address real political issues that real voters care about. So ironically, the more MSNBC leftists spew their cultural Marxist nonsense, the more patriots and populists like Trump win. Hey, gang, I know what it's like to feel alone out there in these turbulent times, but I broke free. If you too have been looking for a community with like-minded patriots who are serious about resisting globalism, building a parallel economy, and having intelligent and deep fellowship on a regular basis, then you've come to the right place. In my Courageous Patriot Insiders community, we're building a close-knit movement of, by, and for patriots who are breaking free from the outrage and despair cycles of the mainstream media and taking on the fight against globalism. Every week, I deep dive into the content I can't share on big tech and give you the cliff notes on the truth of how patriots just like you are building up their communities, starting patriot businesses, and fighting the woke in both public and private. All with a few history and political lessons from yours truly, of course. If you want to stop feeling alone as a patriot and stand together with this fast-growing community, be sure to click on the link in the description below. Don't wait. Join me and my Patriot Coalition today, and let's get fighting.